Step right up. Don't be shy. You guys heard the song, right? Yeah. Just came on the radio. Listen to 98.5 here in Michigan on the FM channel. Anyway, we're talking Notre Dame football, the breakdown of the coaches and the players, and what their outlook will be in this 2024 season. They are now the third most national title getters behind, yours truly. Michigan now with 12, and Alabama with however many they have, 18, 19, I don't know. But, Notre Dame has 11. Your last one was in 1988. I promise I'm going to talk good things about you, but there are going to be, I'm a Michigan fan. So, let's start with your coaches, and then we'll talk about your quarterback, your players, your offensive line, then defense, and then the schedule and an outlook on what you could possibly do, a floor and a ceiling on your schedule with this team coming back, which I have to say is better than I thought it was going to be. This video is courtesy of a vote that I got for a Notre Dame, from a Notre Dame fan, for a breakdown of their schedule. So here we go. Are they national title contenders? You let me know in the comments down below. Their head coach is Marcus Freeman. He is entering his third season as head coach. He has 19-8 record. Marcus started as a graduate assistant at his alma mater, which was Ohio State, in 2010. He was linebacker coach at Kent State, Mark Rogers' alma mater. Fun fact, if you don't know that, yep, I do. For 2 years, before the same role at Purdue for 3 more years. Then his promotion to defensive coordinator happened in 2016 at Purdue. He was hired by Cincinnati as defensive coordinator and linebacker coach under Luke Fickell. Then in 2021, he was DC and linebacker coach for yours truly, Notre Dame, after 1 season. Brian Kelly left, and he was promoted to head coach for all of you. Let's talk about who he hired at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Mike Denbrook is offensive coordinator. This guy has been everywhere. He started as a graduate assistant at Grand Valley State University. That's in Michigan. In 1986, he was a graduate assistant. He's been around. 1988, he was at MSU GA, and then for a couple years. And then 1990, he was Illinois State's tight end coach. In 1992, he was back to Grand Valley State as offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and wide receiver coach. Then in 1996, he switched to defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Grand Valley State, showing his versatility as a coach. That's pretty cool. 2 years at the Buffalo Destroyers as assistant head coach, DC, and offensive line and defensive line coach. So many roles there. In 2001, Stanford hired him as the tight ends coach, and then Notre Dame got him back as the tight ends coach in 2002. Up until 2005, when Washington hired him as an offensive line coach. In 2009, Indiana State hired him as an assistant head coach, special teams coordinator, and linebacker coach. In 2010, Notre Dame, you got him back at tight ends coach. So he just has a love affair with you, that's great. In 2012, he was Notre Dame wide receivers coach, and then in 2014, Notre Dame had him as offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach. And in 2017, Cincinnati poached him from you guys to be the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. In 2022, he was at LSU an offensive coordinator and tight ends coach, and then back to Notre Dame now as offensive coordinator and tight ends coach. So there you have it. That is the story of Mike Denbrock. Defensive coordinator should be a little bit simpler, but not really. Al Golden, he has a story. He started at New Jersey in high school as an offensive coordinator in 1993. Then from 1994 to 1996, he was a GA, graduate assistant at Virginia. In 1997, he was linebacker coach at Boston College, and then in 2000, he went back to his alma mater, Penn State, where he was linebacker coach. Then in 2001, Virginia stole him back as defensive coordinator, and in 2006, Golden was head coach at Temple, going 20-12 in conference. Out of conference, not as good, but and then in 2011, he was hired as head coach at Miami, where he went 32-25 overall. Plus, he was 17-18 in conference, which is kind of why he was let go. But in 2016, he was tight ends coach at my Detroit Lions for a couple years. Let's go, being linebacker coach for 2 more years after that. And then in 2020, Cincinnati hired him in the same role. But then in 2022, Alabama. Since 2022, reading from my notes here, sorry. It's late. This night is getting away from me. I had to work this morning finishing sanding out a house, so. But here we go. And researching all these stats and everything for you tonight, Golden Playbook. That's right. I'm a man of my word. Now, he has been defensive coordinator at Notre Dame since 2022. So there you go. That's your main coaches. Let's talk players. Let's talk quarterbacks. Riley Leonard is the transfer in from Duke, a senior. Riley had a toe injury that ended his last year at Duke. He was 58%, or hampered it, I guess. 58% for 1,102 yards, 6.7 average, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That doesn't sound impressive, but you have to take into account what he did in 2022 as a sophomore. He had 250 completions, 391 attempts. I may have dyslexia. You have to bear with me. 64% he went in 2022 as a sophomore. 2,967 yards, 7.6 average per completion, 20 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. You have a good backup, too. I think this is a competition. I don't know about you. You have to let me know. But Steve Angeli is a redshirt sophomore who went 34 of 44. 77% for 504 yards, 11.5 per completion. 7 touchdowns to just 1 interception. So good room there to start for Notre Dame. At running back, 3 untested but kind of proven running backs. And these breakdowns, I do not include freshmen. Your recruiting classes don't matter. That's depth or whatever. That's cool. But I'm looking for proven talent coming back, depth, overall depth of the team. And at running back, you have 3 that are proven here. So what does that say about the lower classmen? Can they compete? Can they prove they're a pretty good running back room? We're starting with Jeremiah Love, a redshirt freshman. 71 carries for 385 yards last season. 5.4 average, 1 touchdown, 77 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown receiving. Jadarian Price, redshirt sophomore, 47 carries, 272 rushing yards, all but 5.8 average, 3 rushing touchdowns, 67 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. And then Jabron Payne is a redshirt sophomore, 45 carries for 168 yards, 3.7 average, 2 touchdowns rushing, 58 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns receiving. So a bunch of third down backs here for you. Tight end, you got Mitchell Evans back, who's a senior, 29 catches last season for 422 yards, 14.6 average, and 1 touchdown. Eli Raridon is a junior who had 5 catches for 51 yards, 10.2 average, 1 touchdown at tight end. Now we're talking wide receiver. Seems like you're trying to be like Ohio State here at wide receiver. Why? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Oh, come on, Ohio State fans. I'm a Michigan fan. You can take a rubbing, right? A ribbing. Anyway. You have some good wide receivers. Jaden Thomas is wide receiver X, and these positions come from ourlads.com, which was updated in April. I think April 24th or something like that. Probably after your spring game happened. And Jaden Thomas is a redshirt junior who had 21 catches for 310 yards, 14.8 average, and 2 touchdowns. And backing him up at that position, it must be, I think it's the taller wide receiver here, Deion Colsey is a senior who had 3 catches for 45 yards, 15.0 average, and 1 touchdown last season. So he is a threat. Wide receiver Z, you got Chris Mitchell, a graduate transfer from FIU, who had 64 catches last season for Florida International. 1,118 yards, 17.5 average, and 7 touchdowns. Let's go, man. Bo Collins is another senior transfer from Clemson. 38 catches, 510 yards, 13.4 average, and 3 touchdowns. And then at wide receiver F, which I believe is going to be your slot position, is Jaden Harrison, a graduate transfer from Marshall. 28 catches, 410 yards, 14.6 average, and 1 touchdown. So you're killing it in these transfers from at the wide receiver position. Jaden Greathouse, redshirt freshman, had 18 catches, 265 yards, 14.7 average, and 5 touchdowns last season. Jordan Faison, a redshirt freshman as well, had 19 catches, 322 yards, 16.9 average, and 4 touchdowns. So imagine, them 2 players did all that in less than 5 games. That's pretty remarkable. All of these players are relying on the offensive line that is returning 1 starter from last season, which is more than Michigan. But you weren't a perennial Joe Moore Award winner like Michigan has been over the season, so you really do have to prove your offensive line. I think at left tackle they had Charles Jagusa, a redshirt freshman, Emil Wagner, a redshirt sophomore, left guard Pat Coogan, redshirt junior, is the 1 starter that is back. At center, Ashton Craig is listed, a redshirt sophomore. And then at right guard, you have a couple. Billy Schrouth, a redshirt sophomore, and Rocco Spindler, a redshirt junior. At right tackle, you have Tosh Baker, a redshirt senior. So hopefully these guys can keep your weapons upright and going the right way. All right, let's talk defense, because that is what wins championships. I don't care what anyone says. You can have the highest flying offense. They have to have a good defense too. And the more high flying your offense is, puts more of a strain on what your defense can be. It's just a proven fact. Defensive end is, your Now let's talk defensive line first, then we'll talk your middle core, and then we'll talk your defensive backfield. Defensive end, R.J. Oben is a graduate transfer from Duke, who had 17 tackles, 5 sacks, and 1 pass breakup from last season. Backing him up at the defensive end position is Joshua Barnum, a redshirt sophomore, 18 tackles and 1 sack. At the Viper, so that's a hybrid. It's the other end, but it could be a linebacker. You got Jordan Botello, a senior, 32 tackles and 4 sacks. And backing him up is junior Tuialamaka, a junior, 10 tackles from last season. So nose tackle is getting your interior is pretty damn good on the defensive line. Howard Cross III is a graduate that stayed 66 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, and 2 pass breakups in the interior. And backing him up is Donovan Hinish, a redshirt sophomore, 10 tackles, and he had 1 sack. At defensive tackle, Riley Mills is a senior, 47 tackles last season, 2.5 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries. Backing him up is Jason Owen, or is it Owen? Owen. Redshirt junior is what he has, 17 tackles and half a sack from last season. Now, linebacker is a bit thin for you, but the starters have experience. At Will, you have Jack Kaiser, a graduate, 62 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, and 1 pass breakup. At middle linebacker, you have Drake Bowen, a redshirt freshman who had 14 tackles last season. So, like I said, thin. Rover is a position that Notre Dame has. Jalen Sneed is there, a redshirt sophomore with 14 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 2 pass breakups. So that is where you kind of need a little bit more depth or people to step up, I would say. Anyway, we're talking secondary now, and your defensive backfield is pretty deep with experience. Jordan Clark is the graduate transfer from ASU. That doesn't hurt, nor does Rod Hurd II, a graduate transfer from Northwestern. But we don't know if he is there yet. He is committed but not signed. So let's start with them. Nickelback is going to be Jordan Clark. 50 tackles, 9 pass breakups last season at Arizona State. Rod Hurd is committed but not enrolled, like I said. But he had 85 tackles for Northwestern last season. 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception, and 4 pass breakups. I think he is the key. You got to get that guy enrolled for your secondary. But anyway, at corner 1, you have Jaden, FCB, I guess, is not corner 1 because your best corner is Benjamin Morris. But Our Lads has Jaden Mickey listed as your FCB number 1. He's a junior, 11 tackles, 1 interception for a touchdown, and 2 pass breakups. Backing him up is Christian Gray, a redshirt freshman, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups, and 11 tackles. And like I said, Benjamin Morrison is probably your best corner, 31 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 10 pass breakups last season. And then at strong safety and free safety, strong safety has a great starter, Xavier Watts, as a redshirt senior. 52 tackles, half a sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 4 pass breakups. But your free safety, no depth and no experience at all. Aiden Schuler is a redshirt freshman that had 6 tackles last season. That's who they have starting for you right now. So the secondary has a little bit of work to do. The linebackers have a little bit of work to do. The offensive line has work to do, but I'm not saying that you can't do it. Under Marcus Freeman in year 3, here at Notre Dame because the schedule, let's talk about that now, it's average. It would be 8th in the ACC if you were in the ACC. So you have at Texas A&M. But Fisher and that #1 class they got a couple years ago is all gone now. I believe you win this game at their house to open the season, which will be huge. I'm not even putting a question mark on it. I think you'll win. NIU at home is a win. At Purdue is a win. Miami of Ohio is a win. Louisville at home, win. Stanford at home, win. At Georgia Tech, I'm going to give you a win. That one could get interesting, but I think it's a win. Navy is a win. You get a bye before Florida State. I have done a Florida State version of this video. I did a deep dive on them. So this is a question mark for you, just like it is for them. Both pretty good teams, national title contenders. I think Virginia is a win after that, and an Army and a neutral site is a win. You wrap your season up at USC. I think that is a question mark. So, just because of the rivalry and everything, I know that they don't have a quarterback anymore, but they could. I haven't done a deep dive on them yet, but I will. They are in the Big Ten. I think Notre Dame's ceiling is 12-0. I think you can win every one of your games, which I think you probably have to do. You have to at least go 11-1 to make a 12-team playoff without a conference championship. I just think that's what you have to do. Your floor is 9-3 though, so you'll be good. But as always, you won't be able to compete for a conference championship. So you got to get to that playoff. You got to win a title for the first time since 1988, and I'm not rooting for that. As a Michigan fan, I want to repeat, but I think you have a good chance, better than most other people, better than 90% of others. So the more I look at this, the more I want to do Tom's pick, which was Iowa, for the next deep dive of these videos, because, hey, who knows? Cade McNamara, that defense, you got a new offensive coordinator, it could happen. So, but anyway, this is my Notre Dame deep dive. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe, everybody out there, if you haven't already. Share, though, is more important if you have subscribed. But liking is probably the most important. Helps the algorithm, helps people see and view me. And then I can do more content. Eventually, maybe if this thing blows up, I can quit drywalling. That'd be cool. It won't happen, but it's a pipe dream. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. But go blue.